They ruled the felt, they made poker cool, but where are they now? From million-dollar wins to shocking downfalls, these 15 legends shaped poker's golden era, but not all of them made it out on top. Alan Cunningham, the disappearing tactician. At the height of poker's golden boom, Alan Cunningham was revered as one of the most balanced, versatile players on the felt. Between 2001 and 2007, he captured 5 World Series bracelets across a range of disciplines, from no-limit hold'em to stud. He earned the ESPN Toyota Poker Player of the Year title in 2005 and made his biggest mark the following year, finishing 4th in the World Series main event, earning $3.6 million from a field of over 8,000 players. But after Black Friday and the Full Tilt poker collapse, where Cunningham had been a sponsored pro, he quietly stepped back. By 2019, he had nearly disappeared from the live scene altogether. Only in 2023 and 24 did he re-emerge briefly, posting modest results like a 1,052nd place finish in the $10,000 World Series main event and a 377th spot in the $800 deep stack. His total earnings for that series, just under $25,000. Today, he remains off camera, rarely interviewed and selectively engaged. On social media, his occasional tweets reveal he's still watching, still thinking, but he's no longer chasing trophies. He's a ghost in the halls he once dominated. John Wanda, the silent assassin abroad. In the early years of televised poker, John Wanda let his results do the talking. Born in Indonesia and educated in the United States, Wanda amassed over $26 million in live tournament earnings. He won 5 World Series bracelets, conquered the EPT Monte Carlo Super High Roller in 2015, and placed consistently in elite fields across the world. But Wanda never sought fame. Even during his peak, he was one of poker's most private champions, quiet at the table, elusive off it. In recent years, he's made a quiet pivot to Asia, becoming a staple at Triton events and APT tournaments. In 2025, he won the APT Taipei High Roller for over $110,000 US. He now splits time between Jakarta and Macau, still crushing, still calculating, still silent. Johnny Chan, the emperor who left the table. Long before poker had solvers, vlogs, or million-dollar Twitch streams, there was Johnny Chan. With 10 World Series bracelets and back-to-back main event wins in 1987 and 1988, Chan was the original final boss. The man so feared, so respected, that even rounders put him on a pedestal. His stare-downs were legendary, his reads mythical, and then he vanished. In the 2000s, Chan remained a force, appearing on high-stakes poker, battling with Helmuth, Dwan, and Ivy. But once the lights dimmed and the GTO generation took over, Chan slipped out the back door. No farewell tour, no final table goodbye, just silence. Today, he's rarely seen at the World Series. His last known tournament, cash, came years ago. Rumors swirl about failed business ventures and quiet Las Vegas investments, but Chan himself, off the grid. Johnny Chan didn't get beaten, he simply stopped playing. And that silence, it might be the most intimidating move of all. Chris Ferguson, the return nobody asked for. In 2000, Chris Ferguson was poker's dark horse in sunglasses. A World Series main event win, multiple bracelets, and a cold, calculated image that felt built for TV. He was quiet, clinical, respected. Then came Black Friday, and everything changed. As a founding figure of Full Tilt Poker, Ferguson was at the center of one of the biggest scandals in poker history. Millions of dollars in player funds vanished. Accusations flew. Ferguson disappeared. Years later, in a move that shocked the community, he came back. No apology, no explanation. Just a seat at the World Series. In 2017, he won World Series Player of the Year. The crowd didn't cheer, they winced. To this day, Ferguson keeps to himself. He shows up, plays quietly, cashes checks. But for many, the damage was never undone. He was once a champion. Now, he's a symbol of how far poker fell and how some never said sorry. Huckseed, the prophet who vanished. Huckseed's legend begins with a dream, literally. In 1996, he won the World Series main event after having a vision the night before that he'd win $1 million, but that wasn't the only time the poker god spoke to him. Years later, Seed found himself deep in another World Series main event. He once again dreamt of a 7-figure payday, and once again, he trusted it. He made it to the final 14 players, busted. He took his winnings, nearly $30,000, and placed it all on number 14 at the roulette wheel. The ball spun, landed in the 14 slot, bounced out, and landed on 13. That's Huck Seed in a nutshell. Mathematically brilliant, emotionally unshakable, mystically irrational. He was inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame in 2020 and has since withdrawn from regular appearances. You won't find him on streams, you won't find him in interviews, but ask anyone from the old guard and they'll say the same thing. Huck Seed wasn't just lucky, he was chosen. Tony G, the bully who became a politician. Tony G wasn't just a poker player, he was a spectacle. In the mid-2000s, he lit up televised poker with ruthless trash talk and unforgettable catchphrases. Bring more Russians, on your bike. He turned poker tables into pressure cookers and somehow made viewers love him for it. But behind the theatrics was a sharp, calculated mind. Tony G knew how to get under skin and how to win. He cashed in high rollers, battled legends, and became a household name before YouTube poker even exploded. Then, he left. Not for a scandal, not for retirement, for politics. And Tanas Gwoga, Tony G's real name, was elected to the European Parliament, and just like that, poker's wildest villain became a policymaker. Today, he occasionally returns for Triton events or big cash games, but the antics are toned down. The suits are sharper, the volume lower. Still, when Tony G enters the room, everyone hears footsteps. Howard Lederer, the mastermind who went missing. Howard Lederer was once called the Professor. He coached, strategized, and helped build Full Tilt Poker into a global giant. With a smooth voice and a calm demeanor, he taught a generation how to think about the game. Then came the collapse, when Full Tilt was exposed for mismanaging and allegedly misappropriating player funds. Lederer's name was everywhere. Government lawsuits, community outrage, and one haunting term, the Lederer Files. His attempt to explain the scandal only made things worse. After 2011, Lederer vanished. No public events, no tournaments, no interviews. For over a decade, he became poker's Voldemort, the man who must not be named. His few brief returns were met with backlash and silence, and like a man who knew his welcome had expired, he walked out of the spotlight for good. Annie Juke, poker's fallen queen turned keynote speaker. Annie Juke wasn't just one of poker's most successful women, she was one of its most polarizing. A World Series bracelet winner, NBC heads-up champion, and media darling, Juke became a face of the game at a time when few women were given the spotlight. Then came Epic Poker League, her ambitious player-run tournament series. It launched with hype and collapsed into bankruptcy and lawsuits. The fallout was brutal. Accusations of mismanagement stuck. Her reputation crumbled, so she pivoted. Today, Annie Juke is a best-selling author and decision-making consultant. She gives TED Talks, she lectures on risk, she never returned to the felt, but she never fully left the stage either. In poker, she was a queen. In business, she rebranded. Whether that's reinvention or escape depends on who you ask. Andy Bloch, the brain who cashed out early. Before poker was solved, Andy Bloch was already solving it. A Harvard law graduate and former member of the infamous MIT blackjack team, Bloch brought brains to the boom. He made World Series final tables in Hold'em, Raz, Stud, even the $50,000 HORC championship, where he famously finished second to Chip Reese in one of the most legendary heads-up battles ever televised. But Bloch's impact went beyond results. As one of the original Full Tilt pros, he helped design and promote one of the era's biggest platforms. Then, after Black Friday, he walked. Not with scandal, not with drama, just quiet exit. Today, Bloch rarely plays live events. He occasionally pops up for charity tournaments or industry panels, but his focus has shifted to activism, science, and privacy advocacy. In a game obsessed with risk, Andy Bloch cashed out with his integrity intact. David Devilfish Elliott, poker's loudest outlaw. There was only one Devilfish. David Elliott didn't just play poker, he performed it. With tinted shades, flashy rings, and a gravel voice swagger, he became the face of UK poker during the early 2000s. He won a World Series bracelet, conquered the original late-night poker, and told stories that were almost too wild to be true. But beneath the persona was a sharp, fearless grinder who built his bankroll in underground games and backroom brawls. Devilfish wasn't polished, he was poker's rock and roll. He passed away in 2015 after a battle with cancer, and the game lost one of its most iconic characters. Phil Ivey called him a legend, Phil Hellmuth called him irreplaceable. They were both right. Devilfish didn't care for solvers or sponsorships, he cared about the gamble, and every time a player calls with a gut feeling and a chip on their shoulder, his legacy lives on. Paul Wasika, the nearly man who vanished. In 2006, Paul Wasika stared down Jamie Gold at the final table of the largest World Series main event in history. He finished runner-up, taking home over $6 million, and seemed destined for poker's A-list, and for a moment, he was. The next year, Wasika won the NBC Heads-Up Championship, beating players like Joe Hackam, Nam Le, and Chad Brown. He had the skills, the poise, and the early results. Then, he disappeared. No scandal, no epic downswing, just a slow fade from the public eye. By the 2010s, Wasika was virtually gone from the poker landscape. Some say he walked away with his winnings intact. Others say he just lost the hunger. Whatever the reason, Paul Wasika became one of poker's biggest what-ifs, a cautionary reminder that not every great start leads to a lifelong grind. Dan Harrington, the strategist who wrote the Bible. Dan Harrington didn't shout, he didn't bluff with air, he didn't berate fish, he just won. The 1995 World Series main event champ and two-time final tableist during the moneymaker boom, Harrington was the calm in poker's storm, a player who let the numbers do the talking. But his true legacy came on the page. With the Harrington on Hold'em series, he didn't just teach people how to play, he taught them how to think. His books became the foundation for a generation of players who suddenly understood position, hand ranges, and tournament theory. Harrington gradually stepped back from the game in the 2010s, making rare appearances and even rarer cashes, but in strategy rooms and poker forums, his name still echoes. Dan Harrington didn't chase the limelight, he gave others the tools to reach it. Men, the master win, the legend with a shadow. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Men Win was a machine. 7 World Series bracelets, dozens of tournament wins. If there was a final table, Men was there, smiling, joking, stacking chips. He wasn't just winning, he was dominating. But the nickname, The Master, came with baggage. Whispers followed him through the years. Accusations of angle shooting, coaching players mid-hand, even soft play with students. None of it ever led to formal punishment, but the chatter never stopped. In poker, reputation is currency, and Men's value fluctuated wildly. As the game evolved, Men's results dipped. He still plays, still cashes, still shows up at the World Series with that unmistakable energy. But the legacy, complicated. Men Win was once considered one of the best. For some, he still is. For others, he's the cautionary footnote. Lane Flack, the back-to-back star we lost too soon. Lane Flack didn't just win tournaments, he stole the spotlight. Charismatic, sharp-witted, and lightning fast at the table, Flack earned his nickname by winning back-to-back World Series events in both 2002 and 2003. He racked up 6 bracelets total and became a fan favorite during the poker boom. But behind the smile was struggle. Flack battled addiction for years. His personal demons followed him even through success. Friends and fellow pros knew the highs were sky high, and the crashes just as brutal. In 2021, poker lost Lane Flack. He passed away at just 52 years old. The news sent shockwaves through the community. Players like Mike Mattisau, Daniel Negreanu, and Phil Hellmuth paid tribute to his talent, humor, and humanity. Lane Flack wasn't just a winner, he was loved, and his absence still echoes through the halls of the World Series. David Williams, the natural-born gambler. In 2004, David Williams burst onto the global poker stage with a second-place finish at the World Series main event, banking $3.5 million. He was only 23 at the time, and the world thought they'd just met poker's next superstar. And they had. But Williams was never just about poker. Across the next 2 decades, he built one of the most dynamic resumes in poker history. A World Series bracelet in 2006's, a final table finish in the 2010 World Series championship event. multiple top 3 runs in mixed game events, including 3rd place in the 2024 World Series $2,500 Omaha High-Low event, where he earned over $102,000, but perhaps his most surprising move came in 2016 when he appeared on Season 7 of MasterChef. He didn't just show up, he made the finale. That same year, he also became a fan favorite for ESPN's World Series commentary, and later worked on corporate campaigns in both gaming and food. David Williams today is still in Las Vegas, still grinding, still involved, but also a father, a business mind, and a storyteller. In his words, "Poker gave me everything, but I was never meant to only be a poker player." Jason Mercier, the bracelet hunter turned family man. There was a stretch between 2008 and 2016 where Jason Mercier was the most feared tournament player alive. 5 World Series bracelets, dozens of final tables, unforgettable prop bets, including one with Vanessa Selbst that nearly made poker history. In 2016 alone, he won 2 bracelets and final tabled another, all within 3 weeks. His heater was so insane, he locked up World Series Player of the Year before the main event even started. Then, he walked away. After marrying fellow poker pro Natasha Barber and starting a family, Mercier stepped back. No scandal, no burnout, just life. In interviews, he explained, "I didn't want to miss my son's first steps while chasing bracelets." Today, Mercier still makes select appearances, like World Series High Rollers or PokerStars sponsored events, but he's mostly found in Florida, playing private games, investing quietly, and being a full-time dad. Even now, when he does play, pros take notice, because if Jason Mercier enters your event, he's not there for the min cash, he's there to win. Jean-Robert Belander, the roller coaster king of Vegas. JRB never won a main event, never dominated the GTO scene, but in terms of persona, no one embodied the lifestyle of poker more than Jean-Robert Belander. He made his name in the mid-2000s as a loud, larger-than-life grinder with a taste for nightlife, wild prop bets, and nosebleed swings. He was broke, he was rich, he was broke again, but he was always there, smiling, suited up, ready for the next round. Over time, Belander became the ultimate high-stakes Vegas fixture. He played in televised cash games like High Stakes Poker, starred on Survivor China, and was known for walking into Aria or Bellagio games with 6 figures on his wrist, and sometimes nothing in his wallet. In 2018, he finally earned his first World Series bracelet in a $10,000 no-limit Hold'em 6-handed championship. The win was worth over $700,000, and a sigh of relief. On the Table 1 podcast, Belander recently spoke about fatherhood, million-dollar downswings, and private games in Vegas that still attract the world's best. JRB didn't just survive poker, he turned it into his brand. Joe Hashem, Australia's poker godfather. Before 2005, no Australian had ever won the World Series of Poker main event. Then came Joe Hashem. The 40-year-old former chiropractor turned a $75 online satellite into a life-changing win, defeating over 5,600 players and taking home $7.5 million. His emotional "pass the sugar" moment became one of the most iconic soundbites in World Series history. Hashem followed it up by winning the World Poker Tour Bellagio 5 Diamond Classic in 2006 for over $2 million, cementing his place as more than a one-hit wonder. But Joe never sought a Las Vegas residency. Instead, he went home and built something bigger, a poker scene in Australia. He mentored his son Daniel Hashem, supported charities like Poker with the Stars, and co-hosted major Australian poker events. Today, he's still active, representing the game with class and integrity. In his own words, it's not just about poker, it's about showing people how poker can change lives, responsibly. Jonathan Duhamel, from main event king to quiet contender. In 2010, Canadian pro Jonathan Duhamel took down the World Series main event for $8.9 million. He was just 23. His victory was a strategic masterclass in patience, aggression, and focus. But just 1 year later, his life turned into a headline. Duhamel was assaulted and robbed in a violent home invasion. His main event bracelet and cash were stolen. The culprits, his ex-girlfriend and her accomplices. Though the jewelry was eventually recovered, Duhamel was shaken. He scaled back his media appearances and went quiet, but not inactive. In 2015, he won 2 more World Series bracelets, including the $111,111 high roller for one drop for over $4 million. Since then, he's kept a low profile, but remains a respected force in high rollers and EPT events. From victim to victor, Duhamel is a reminder that surviving poker means surviving everything else too. Chad Brown, poker's gentleman, gone too soon. Chad Brown had it all: looks, skill, charm, and presence. A regular on televised poker throughout the early 2000s, he came close to a World Series bracelet multiple times, cashing in nearly 40 events. He was the full package, respected by peers, admired by fans. But life had other plans. In 2011, Brown was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. He continued to play and smile through the pain, refusing to let illness define him. His courage was so inspiring that in 2014, the World Series awarded him an honorary bracelet, just days before he passed away at age 52. Brown wasn't just a great player, he was a great person. His legacy lives on in memorial tournaments and stories shared by those who sat beside him. In a game full of egos, Chad Brown was the kind of player everyone rooted for, even when he wasn't at the table. Juke, the young gun who still grinds. At 2009, at just 21 years old, Juke became the youngest World Series main event champion in history, surpassing Peter Eastgate's record set just 1 year prior. His win earned him $8.5 million and a seat at poker's highest table. But unlike many of his generation, Kader didn't flame out. He got better. In 2018, he proved it wasn't a fluke. He won his second career bracelet, made another deep main event run, finishing in 5th place out of over 7,800 players, and capped the summer with a third bracelet, all in one series. Calder has kept his head down. No flashy appearances, no scandals, just steady play, smart bankroll management, and yearly World Series attendance. As of 2024, Joe has 4 bracelets and over $14 million in live tournament earnings. He's not chasing poker stardom, he already lived it. Now, he's just quietly rewriting what longevity in poker looks like. Prahlad Friedman, the mystic of the moneymaker era. Before Twitch, before solvers, before GTO, there was Spirit Rock. Prahlad Friedman, aka Mahatma, was online poker's first mystic, an intuitive, fearless destroyer on Ultimate Bet. He was the original anti-hero, a freestyle rapper, a spiritual seeker, and a high-stakes online boss. But in the late 2000s, Friedman's meteoric rise took a dark turn. He was one of the main victims in the infamous Ultimate Bet cheating scandal, where insiders used a god mode to see opponents' hole cards. Millions were stolen, trust was shattered, and Prahlad disappeared. Years later, he returned, changed, quieter, more introspective. In 2019, he made the final table of the $10,000 2-7 lowball championship. He also spoke candidly on the Poker Central podcast, revealing that he had been raising his daughter, living a vegan lifestyle, and only playing when it aligned with his energy, not his bankroll. He's not grinding the circuit, he's not chasing bracelets, but if you see him at the table, trust your gut, he's still dangerous. Dutch Boyd, the crew's tragic prodigy. Dutch Boyd was supposed to be poker's next genius, a child prodigy who earned his law degree by age 18. Boyd co-founded The Crew with players like Scott Fishman and David Williams, a renegade group that wanted to take over the poker world in the early 2000s, and for a while, they did. Boyd won 3 World Series bracelets, authored a poker memoir, and was known for his hyper-aggressive style. But beneath the surface, things weren't stable. He suffered from bipolar disorder, faced lawsuits over the collapse of his poker startup PokerSpot, and clashed with pros and fans alike. By the mid-2000s teens, his name appeared more in forums than on leaderboards. These days, Dutch still plays online and occasionally live, often under the radar. He blogs, he reflects, but he doesn't boast. In many ways, he's poker's cautionary tale, but also its survivor. Ilari Sahamese, the Finnish flameout. Back in the full tilt glory days, if you searched for jaw-dropping hands, one name always popped up: Ziegmund. Ilari Sahamese, the Finnish PLO maniac with a temper and a stack of euros, played with a blend of chaos and genius that captivated railbirds. He drank vodka mid-session. He won 7 figures in a day and lost it just as fast. He battled with Ivy, Dwan, and Antonius, earning the respect of every high-stakes regular while refusing to conform. But after Black Friday and mounting losses, Sahamese disappeared from the spotlight. He's rumored to have focused on business investments and private life back in Helsinki. Some say he still plays private games, others think he cashed out for good. One thing's for sure, he burned brighter than most. and in the age of optimized play and stoic bots, Ilari Sahamese remains a symbol of raw, unfiltered, unforgettable poker. Sammy Farha, the coolest man in poker. You can't write the history of poker's boom without Sammy Farha. In 2003, with an unlit cigarette hanging from his lips and an open-collared silk shirt, Farha faced off against Chris Moneymaker in the World Series main event. It was experience versus destiny. He finished second, but became a star. That tournament changed poker forever, and Farha's image became iconic. The suave, aggressive, cash game specialist who didn't need GTO to win. He played by feel, read souls, and looked like he belonged in a Scorsese film. Over the next decade, he appeared on shows like High Stakes Poker, Poker After Dark, and Impact Cash Games at Bellagio. His signature phrase, "You call, it's gonna be all over, baby," wasn't a bluff, it was a prophecy. In recent years, Farha has stepped back from the spotlight. He rarely plays tournaments, but if you walk into a high-stakes room in Vegas, there's still a chance you'll see him. Cigar in hand, chips stacked, unbothered. Sammy Farha never needed to win the main event, he won the culture. Brian Townsend, the fallen strategist. Brian Townsend, known as Sprugby online, was one of the first to bridge elite online play and academic poker education. He crushed high-stakes cash games, battled nosebleeds on Full Tilt, and helped found Card Runners, one of the most respected training sites of its era. Townsend was a thinker, a strategist, but controversy came in 2009 when he was found to have used multiple accounts while gathering hand histories on opponents, violating Full Tilt's rules. He lost his Red Pro status and his reputation took a hit. Since then, he stepped back from the game publicly. Some believe he shifted into business or finance. Others say he still plays under new aliases. What's certain is that Townsend helped professionalize online poker and then quietly vanished from it. He didn't flame out, he just disappeared. Stu Angar, the ghost of greatness. Stu Angar didn't just play poker, he broke it. In a game built on discipline, patience and psychology, Angar won with raw genius. A 3-time World Series main event champion, still unmatched. He read players like open books and played fearless before fearless was a strategy. But brilliance came with a price. Haunted by addiction and personal demons, Angar's life spiraled as quickly as his chips once stacked. By the time of his third main event win in 1997, he looked like a ghost. Frail, tired, surviving on instinct. He passed away 1 year later, alone in a Las Vegas motel, broke and barely recognized by the game he helped define. Today, Angar's legend lives on in hushed conversations, in grainy footage, in every discussion about natural talent. He never played a hand with solvers, never studied GTO, and yet he's still considered one of the greatest to ever touch the felt. Stu Angar didn't fade, he exploded and left the table in ashes. The golden era of poker wasn't just defined by bracelets or bankrolls, it was defined by personality, by swagger, variance, and belief. Belief that anyone, regardless of background, could sit at a table, stare down a legend, and become one. But time changes the game, and eventually it changes the player. If you want to see the top 15 of this list, check out part 1 here.